We're chronicling the losses. We turn again to Chris Blackhurst, who's former City editor, Evening Standard editor of the Independent, award-winning City commentator. And from burgers to banks, more job losses this week. Chris, morning.
Yeah, I'm afraid, Nick, it's been another terrible week. It just goes on and on. Burger King closing stores, even Disney, Shell, 9,000 jobs. Greggs, even Salted Greggs closing jobs. Basically, the worst news possibly from YouGov. It's a poll this week. More than a third of UK employers plan to make staff redundant over the next 3 months. The phrase that's being used is a jobs tsunami. I'm afraid that's what it looks like. And we need a plan. We need some way of getting all these people back into work.
Chris, you're right. They talk about training. We might touch on that next week. Thank you for running through it. It gives us no pleasure to do that, but we have to give you that situation because it is so much. At this time of the morning is typically when the announcements come in. So Chris Blackhurst rounding it up for us. Thank you, former City editor at the Evening Standard and editor of the Independent. Just on the news that broke within the last hour and a bit, of course, the United States, the President and the First Lady testimony. As our US correspondent said, this is they have to have full confirmation, but this sort of 15-30 minute test showing positive. But I would imagine the way the world is moving, it probably will turn out to be positive. So what does that mean for the supposed debate later this month, and indeed the whole election? Scott Lucas, Professor of US Politics and American Studies at the University of Birmingham, edits the politics website EA Worldview, and regularly helps us with these matters. Okay, break it down for us now, Scott. What happens? Does he go ahead with the debate? How do you read it? Morning, Chief.
Morning, Nick. So many questions. In terms of the succession of power, that's in the U.S. Constitution. If he does fall ill, in other words, not only symptomatic, but is incapacitated, Vice President Mike Pence takes over. But in terms of the campaigning, with just over 4 weeks to go, it takes him off of the campaign trail, so he cannot have these large rallies that he was counting on to raise his profile. Technically, he cannot campaign from inside the White House. Now, whether they try to break that, we'll see. He'll do two things. One is he'll use White House appearances if he's physically able to do so, answering reporters' questions. And then you're big. 2 weeks from now, he's due to meet Joe Biden in the second presidential debate. Will they set it up inside a White House studio where he goes ahead? Does he pull out? If he appears, does he finally wear a mask and actually acknowledge the threat of the virus?
Wow, so many questions. We have delayed elections here in the UK, the London mayoral election, for instance, which is quite a big deal. It's nothing the size of the presidential election. There's no mechanism, there's no protocol for ever delaying United States presidential elections, Scott.
The mechanism is that Congress has to meet and amend an 1845 Act that far back, which sets that date on that first Tuesday in November. Will Republican senators even dare to try to attempt to do this when we already have so many questions about holding the vote amidst the conditions of the virus?
Great for your input, as ever. We'll talk again soon. Scott, thank you so much. Scott Lucas, Professor of US Politics and American Studies at the University of Birmingham, editor of the politics site E8 Worldview. We'll update you. That's all you really need to know at this point, okay? And it is broken very recently, but we will update you through the course of the week, and I know my colleagues here on LBC will do the same. Alvin in Oxford, let's come to what's happening here in the UK. Do you understand the confusion across the country? Good morning, and thank you for holding, sir.
Yeah, it's absolutely baffling what the government are coming out with. It's like they're picking areas of, like, you're in lockdown, you're restricted to this, but then faffing around with it, if you know what I mean, as in not giving the right information across. If they had, if you're in a red area, these are your restrictions. If you're in an amber area, these are the green area, is like we were before the second lockdown. Yeah. Your 2 metre rule in your mask. And make it clear and concise. Some people will find it difficult because they're getting cross wires everywhere. If they said red, green, amber, everyone stick to it in the whole country, and that is how it would be. It would be so much easier sticking to an easy traffic light system.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. If you and I are running pubs or restaurants in Herefordshire and we can continue to trade, meanwhile Hartlepool will come, that does at least keep us taking in the money, keeps us paying the staff and hopefully getting back on our feet. Do you see what I'm saying? Rather than a blanket lockdown.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I work for a Premier League club, and we stick when it comes to a game, red, amber, green. If you got red, you can only go in these areas. If you got amber, these areas. So you've got specific rules for specific colours. And like you're saying, Hartlepool, if it is red, yes, unfortunately you're stuck to this. But this is a time scale as well of how long you're going to. Because at this moment they're not actually giving a time scale of anything either. They're just sort of sticking on the list and waiting until things sort of calm down, then sort of thinking about changing their mind. It's just everyone's getting crosswires of information.
They are. I wouldn't dream of asking you which club, but let me ask you, what sort of start to the season have you had in the Premier League at the club you work for?
We had a good result last night, let's put it that way. Really good result last night.
You did have a good result last night. Okay, look after yourself. You had a pretty good season so far, I think, haven't you? I think you knocked my team out as well. Alvin, thank you. Look after yourself. Paul in Ely, do you understand the confusion? Good morning, Paul.
Yeah, I do understand the confusion, and there are a lot of people who don't understand the confusion. And like you say, it's a blanket thing. It's not like done individually in different areas. And I think and a lot of people are getting the right ump about this. And I know it's quite a way into the future, but I think when it comes down to the elections, which nobody who comes on has said it yet, but when it comes down to elections, Boris and the Conservative Party will bang on about how we gave everybody 80% of their wages. No other party's ever done that. But I think with what's going on, with people losing their jobs and businesses going out of business, I think this could lose them the election.
Oh, I think you're absolute, and I think they're probably waking up to that. And do you not think that's why they've had so much pressure from so many of their MPs, the Conservatives, because their constituents are ringing them up, banging on the door and emailing, saying, my business has just started, you're trying to close it down again.
Well, this is it. I mean, it's all well and good giving people 80% and keeping them off of work, but what are they going back to? They're going back to 6,000 job losses at a hotel chain. They're going back to companies shutting down literally in their dozens, maybe every day, every week.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it is a ways off, but you're absolutely right. They are going to have to address that. And I saw a figure, I don't even want to think of it, of 4 million potential job losses. Paul, look after yourself. Thanks also to you, sir, for holding on. Coming up after the news, we'll be hearing how committed development homes will meet its space standards, as it's called. You're from the Housing Secretary. More on that. Also, and I need to tell you, this was recorded last